Hello everyone and welcome back once again to my Carnival Cruise review. So if you're not really familiar with what's going on right now, I've been doing this for a few days actually, myself, but on the channel you've seen just a couple videos so far. So I've been doing a review of my recent cruise that I took on the Carnival Ecstasy back in 2017, and I decided that I would talk about a few of the points that were really important to me and that I thought might could help first time cruisers or just people who in general who hadn't been on a Carnival cruise before. This was my first cruise, and it was a 5-day cruise that we took to the Bahamas, where we stopped at 2 ports. So I wanted to give my review over certain points, and I have done so actually. I've already talked about the price, I've talked about the staterooms, and I've talked about the food. So if you didn't tune into those and watch those, then I'm just going to give you a little bit of heads up here, a little background. That's what I'm going to be talking about. We're going to start today's off with the excursions. And also, I wanted to separate all of these videos as well, so that for those of you who didn't watch the last ones, maybe it's just not something you're interested in, and when you go on a cruise, maybe you just want to learn about the excursions. So that's why you're watching this one. And that is what we're actually going to be talking about today. So let's go ahead and just get into it and start talking about it, because with Carnival, the excursions are, in my experience, interesting. Let's just say that. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you, obviously, some of my videos and my personal pictures that I had taken when I was on my cruise. The only thing that isn't mine on this that you're seeing right now is the picture in the bottom right corner. So we went on the Carnival Ecstasy. Like I said earlier, that is the ship up at the top there, right in front of the Anthem of the Seas. This is when we stopped at, I believe it was Nassau. That was the port that we stopped at. And the videos that you're seeing right now are from Atlantis, which I think is pretty much the biggest part of Nassau, is that Atlantis is there. So when we heard that we were going to Nassau, or Nassau, or however you say it, I went there and I still didn't know how to say the name of that place. But basically, when we went there, we were really wanting to experience either the beaches or Atlantis. That was the one thing we wanted to do. So before we went on our cruise, Carnival gives you the option to book excursions through them, which sometimes I would recommend doing and sometimes I wouldn't. So for us, we were going to 2 ports, and we had debated whether we wanted to do a short excursion on both ports, because before I even booked the excursions, I called Carnival and asked them about certain things and certain excursions, because there were certain limitations that I had, and I wanted to make sure that certain things that I did would be okay for me to do before I actually went ahead and booked them and bought them. So I called them, and I had probably 2 on each port that I wanted to do, and they had told me on the phone, you probably would be better off not booking more than 1 excursion on each port, because some of them are up to 3 and 4 hours long, and including your ride to the area and from, it could end up being 5 or 6 hours, and that's pretty much all of your time on the island. So you want to make sure that you get back to catch the ship. So when we went to book, I did 1 on each island at first. I was thinking I wanted to do that, and then I kept looking, and it just depends on what you want to do. So since we wanted to go to Atlantis, I had searched for a few different excursions that had to do with Atlantis, and a lot of them were really expensive because it was per person. So it wasn't just like so much for the whole shebang, everybody. You had to do it per person. So when we were looking at Atlantis stuff, it was actually pretty expensive, and we didn't really want to pay that much, because we were also planning on doing an excursion on the second island as well, or the second port in Freeport. So we had talked it over, and I said, let's just book 1 excursion on one area, 1 port, and then on the other port, we'll just walk to the beach that day and we'll just stay there and not do an excursion, because that's mostly what we wanted to do on our cruise. Was we wanted to go on an excursion, or not an excursion. We wanted to go to the beach, basically. And in my head, I had pictured the picture down in the bottom corner there that you guys are seeing. We're sitting in the ocean. We can go right off the ship and then go right out there and play or lay out or do whatever we want in the ocean. That was what I had pictured in my head. So that's why I thought, okay, Freeport, it'll be fine. We won't book anything there. We'll just go and enjoy a day at the beach at Freeport, and then Nassau will be the one where we go and do something. So we had planned to do a snorkeling trip out on a catamaran, I think is what it was called. It was a catamaran snorkel, where you get on this little, like, hammock-looking ship, or like a pontoon boat is kind of what it looked like, but it had sort of like a netting that you laid out on, and they went out to this area of the sea and you got to go snorkeling. So that's what we had originally picked to do on Nassau, and we went through Carnival, their website, and we booked it, we paid for it, and everything was good. We also had purchased a Faster to the Fun pass, and this is something that Carnival offers, where it says that you basically avoid any type of lines, okay? So Faster to the Fun is one price for all. You buy it and it's for your cabin, so you don't have to purchase it per person. It's just, I think it was, I want to say $60, something like that, for the whole stateroom, the cabin, and that included everybody in it. And it just basically said, hey, skip the lines, don't worry about waiting around, you get to go faster to the fun, basically. That's why they call it that. That's what we purchased for about $60, $65, something like that. And I thought that's going to be worth it, because we don't have to pay for it with each person. It's for our whole stateroom, so everybody there, which it was just two of us, and it was only like $65 a person. Or not a person, I just said it was $65 for the room. So only once you had to pay for it, and I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and do that. And then we had the catamaran snorkel planned and nothing planned for Freeport. So they also offer, on days, we didn't actually know this, but on days that we're in the ports, sometimes if you get down there early in the morning, they can have some specials going on, or some last minute excursions that aren't filled up yet down in the area where you go to guest services on the ship. You can go down there and book a cruise as quickly as you would like to. If they have one at 9 o'clock and you're down there at 8 o'clock and you just so happen to get into the window, you can sign up for the cruise you can sign up for the excursion right then and there, go get ready, head on out, and you can get on your way. So that's also another thing that you could do as well if you don't want to book an excursion ahead of time. If you think, yeah, I'm not sure yet. So that's something to think about too. But there is a short window for some of them, because we had went down there during the day for one of them, and we were lucky it was kind of early, because they were basically sold out, and a lot of the cruises, why do I keep saying cruise? I don't know why. A lot of the excursions were already leaving for the day, because they were like 4 and 5 hour excursions, so they were going to be gone for the day and then come back later. They would leave at like 8 a.m. or something, so it was generally a lot tougher to do it on the ship, but definitely if that's something you want to do and you just want to play it by ear, you can do that too. And then I was told a lot by certain people that when you get off those ships, you're going to be asked if you want to do this or do that or go here or go there by someone on the island, some of the locals. So you don't necessarily have to go on an excursion from the ship. You can just go to the island and take a taxi and say, hey, I want to go to the beach, drop me to a beach, and you can go do that. But you just have to remember that if you don't book it through the cruise line, then you're responsible for getting back on the ship yourself. So if you take a taxi there, you have to be responsible for taking a taxi back in time to be able to make it to the ship before they depart from the port. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So we kind of decided if we do want to do something on Freeport, since people are going to be asking us if we want to go anyway, and virtually just right in your face saying, hey, go, let's go, I'll take you here, I'll do this, we'll do that, then we'll just do that. So that's what we decided to do on Freeport. So it comes to the day where we were supposed to go to our snorkeling adventure. Well, actually, I think it was before that day. It was like a day before. We got a letter that was put underneath our door to our stateroom. And it basically said that the catamaran snorkel adventure that we had booked was canceled. I don't know why. They had just stated, okay, well, we're going to cancel this because I think they ended up saying that not enough people had purchased a ticket for it. So they couldn't, since it wasn't filled full, they couldn't go on the tour, which I thought was kind of weird, because if it's not full, why don't we just go anyway? Why does it have to be full for us to go on this snorkeling thing? So we ended up not being able to go on the catamaran snorkel for Nassau. So we were just like, what are we gonna do? We had this planned, and now we have nothing planned. What they did was they refunded us the money that we paid for it onto our ship card. So we thought, let's just use the money from the snorkel to put towards something else, and we'll just do something else on the island that day. So I don't remember exactly, because I want to say we went to Nassau first, but for some reason I feel like we went to Freeport first. I don't remember, and it's driving me crazy because it wasn't that long ago that I took the trip. I mean, yeah, it's been probably 6 or 7 months, maybe even longer than that, since I've been on the trip, but I cannot remember for the life of me which one we got to first. But I do know that whichever one we did first, I'm just going to start with Freeport. So basically, when we got to Freeport, my expectations were, like I said, that picture in the bottom right corner. We're going to get to Freeport, the ship's going to dock, we can get off and go to the beach, because we didn't have a shore excursion planned, so we're good. We dock at Freeport, and it's basically no beaches in sight, is what it is. It's like a humongous shopping district area where you can walk around and buy trinkets and souvenirs and stuff, but you can't do anything else. So we weren't really feeling too good that day, so we decided to go and get off the ship and walk around Freeport for a little bit, see what was up. So we went and we walked around down there, just kind of doing our thing, and then we looked at all the shops. We could hear there was some people talking about, hey, would you like to go on a tour? We'll take you on a tour right this way, and all this stuff, and we just ignored it because we wanted to go look around the shops anyway. We actually did want to go and buy some souvenirs and stuff for family back at home. So we spent quite a bit of time that morning looking around shops, purchasing different souvenirs, and then we made our way back to the ship to relax for a bit, and it was kind of early still. So we went down to guest services to see if there was anything that we can do for the day, because we were kind of disappointed that we couldn't just walk right off onto a beach, which is what I had expected. But it was definitely not a beach that we could walk off on. It was just a big old port with lots of shops where you could go around and shop, basically. So we talked to the people at guest services, and they had a lady down there that morning who was selling tickets to a beach day that was actually about to get sold out, so it was on sale. And she was like, we're just going to offer this for you guys. If you want to go to the beach today, they're going to be down there for about 3 hours. They're going to take you down there and bring you back. It's going to be like $25 a person or something like that if you would like to go. And we were like, yeah, sure. That's pretty cheap, just to go down to the beach for the day. And that's what we wanted to do to begin with. So we went, bought those tickets, hopped right on the ship. It was about, or not the ship, it was a bus, I believe, that took us down there. We sat in this tent and waited for the bus to arrive. Went down to the beach, stayed for a few hours, came back, and pretty much stayed on the ship for the rest of the day until we left the port. So we ended up having to buy an excursion to be able to go to the beach that day, which was a little bit disappointing for me. But in hindsight, I wish I would have asked more, because I didn't ask at all about why we stopped at the port and we weren't near any beaches or anything. It's just something I didn't know because I was a first-time cruiser, so I just assumed if we're cruising for the first time, this is how cruise ships work. They just dock on a little area and you can swim off and do what you want near the beach all day. The islands are all beaches and they're all sand and sun and water, but it wasn't. So I was definitely preparing myself when we got to the next area that it might not be exactly what we think. So we had the snorkeling adventure canceled. We pull up in the port at Nassau, and I'm looking around and I'm like, here we go. Here it is. No beaches in sight. It's just shops and just areas to shop around, which is not what I wanted. So we went down to guest services and we bought an Atlantis pass for the day. It wasn't a big pass or anything. I think it was about, I want to say it was $100, and it was an Atlantis beach day pass where you got to go pretty much on half of the area of Atlantis. You didn't get to go directly into the big water slides and water rides and all that stuff. You got to go basically over towards the beach area. Atlantis has its own area where they have their own pre-made beach, as well as they have an area where it's actually connected to the beach and it's still part of Atlantis. So we decided to do that because I wanted to see Atlantis. Was not disappointed in that whatsoever. I thought it was money well spent, because as you saw in those other videos, there were sharks and I fell in love because I love sharks. And when I heard that they had a tunnel like thing that you can go through and see all the different sea creatures and stuff, I was all for it. We did that, did the tour, went through and saw all of the stuff. We went to the beach down there, stayed out there for a while. It was just really difficult though because it was right after hurricane season, so it was pretty cold water. Couldn't really go in the water too much, and the waves were so strong they were literally pushing me down. I couldn't stand if I went farther out than above my knees. So it was kind of disappointing there, and also the wind was crazy. So we went to the pre-made Atlantis beach, and that we stayed at for a little while. The water was just extremely cold, but that's just the time of year that we went. Nothing they can do about that. We went to eat lunch, and then we took a tram back to the ship and decided to go back and stay the rest of the day on the ship until we left the port. So the Atlantis adventure that we did, I thought was definitely worth it. The Freeport beach thing, I wish we wouldn't have had to buy it, but it was the only way that we could get to a beach, and that was something that I was really confused about. So I'm definitely going to check on that next time before I even go on a cruise. I'm going to make sure one of the ports at least stops, like that picture there, on a place where we can just get off and go in the water, because that's actually what I want. So I did want to go ahead though and take a few minutes here to show you guys some of the things that they offer on their website that you can go to and look at. And if you want to do a shore excursion, you can kind of see how to do it. So they offer on their website, you can look it up basically by destination or whatever you want to do. But I think it's I just clicked this here, and you can browse by activity or destination. I just clicked the Bahamas destination because that's what we went to, is the Bahamas, but yours can be totally different. And then they show you a list of different things that you can book and do while you are there. And all you have to do is you can click on one and you can quick view it, and it will tell you about what it is, how much it is a person, what you do, how long it is, the activity level, which I thought was really important, because if it's something that, let's see, kind of like this here, if it's something difficult for me, I couldn't do it because I have disability and I have difficulties with strenuous activities. So that was very nice for me to have there to see. But you can just look at the different ones, anything you want to look at. I'll tell you how much it is, and you can just get reviews as well. You can read some reviews from people who have went on these different types of excursions and get their experiences from if they say it's a good value, if it's reliable and convenient and fun, or if it's something that you shouldn't go on or you shouldn't do. Because a lot of them, I actually did take the reviews to heart. I looked at a bunch of them and I was just like, you know what? The reviews aren't too good for this, so maybe I'll not do it. And a lot of them we didn't do because they were pretty expensive. So you can see that it's $104.99 per person for an adult and $100 for a child. So if you're a family of 4, that's going to be pretty expensive to go just for a house select retreat. I get it. It's a luxurious private getaway for you and whoever you're with, so it might be worth it to do that. But if you're staying at a port for just a few hours, what's the reason to do it? I don't know. Maybe you'd like it, maybe you don't. It might not be your thing. I don't know. But there's different things you can just do. They actually feature some that you can actually look at that could be recommended. So that's something that you can look at too. You can always click view details and see the whole entirety of what this thing includes. So it can tell you like suitable for guests in good physical condition, not recommended for guests with heart, neck, back issues, or women who are pregnant. Minimum age required to participate is 6 years old. Maximum weight per person is 280 pounds. Guests will be provided with a life jacket that must be worn. Guests must be able to swim. Would recommend guests wear a swimsuit and bring a towel, hat, and adequate sun protection. Wildfire sightings, while common, are not guaranteed. So they just give you a whole bunch of information about it. That way you're not left out. Okay, so you know what you're going to get. And I actually really did like that. So if that's something that you do want to do, you can always plan it and just figure it out. It's going to be something. I think it's worth it, in my opinion, to do these shore excursions. Now, would I do it again? Yes. But the thing is, like I said earlier, I'm looking for a shore excursion that I can do without having to go to like without having to go and buy a ticket to ride a tram to the beach. Okay, that's not what I'm looking forward to. I want to go and just get on the beach and lay out or do whatever I want for the rest of the day. It's not something that I want to plan an excursion for, because if something does happen and you're not able to get to the excursion, then I don't think they give you your money back on it. The only way that they would give you your money back on an excursion is if you if it gets canceled, like bad weather, or the tour gets canceled because there wasn't enough people, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely something that you have to kind of want to do and be committed to doing it if you are planning on doing a shore excursion. So with my experience on shore excursions, I would say I would recommend them through Carnival or through the ship itself versus getting one on the island. But then there are other people who say it's best to just get one on the island. It's definitely going to be a lot better for you to do that, and you'll end up paying a lot less, because that is another thing with going through the actual cruise line, is you're going to pay extra for something that you could probably do on the island for way cheap, because they'll offer you a tour for like $20. They'll take you in a taxi to a beach, or you can go through the cruise line and pay like $60 per person, and you can do the same exact thing. So it just depends on what you want to do. honestly, I really enjoyed going to Atlantis. I think that was one of my favorite things about the shore excursions. Like I said, I love sharks, so getting to see them up close like that, super cool for me. Um, and I really like that the most out of all the shore excursions because that was a day that we got to be pretty much like kids, you know? You get to go into Atlantis and go through the tunnels and see all the different um, animals or marine life or whatever, and I thought it was really cool. And I did like that I got to relax on the beach in Freeport, but it's just I didn't like that I had to walk down and get a tour bus to go down there and pay for one versus just walking out onto a beach from the ship. So just something to keep in mind if you are planning on doing it yourself. But I think that Carnival does a pretty good job with those, as well as accommodating what you want. So if you do go through them, I'm pretty sure it's going to be worth it. Now, the only thing I will say though, because this is something that I didn't know for sure if I should put it in excursions or in overall experience, but I think it kind of belongs in excursions. So I am going to talk about it here, but the Faster to the Fun Pass, in my opinion, was not worth it. I thought I wasted my money on that Faster to the Fun Pass because basically what it does is it's supposed to let you get first in line for everything. So even from boarding your ship the first day, what they did was they took our luggage and they wrapped this little tag around it called Faster to the Fun. And that meant that our bags were going to be at our room right away. Our room was going to be ready right when we got on the ship. We weren't going to have to wait if, let's say, we had to get on a boat, travel to the port, that the cruise ship couldn't actually dock at the port, and they had to take people to and from. We would be first to go. If there was any type of lines or anything we had to wait, we wouldn't have to wait. We could go right to the front of the line. That was what was promised on the Faster to the Fun passes. But I thought it was a waste because it literally, none of it happened. Maybe one or two things out of all of it happened. So the first thing that they had told us we wouldn't have to wait in lines and we would just go right on through checking in and stuff like that. That didn't happen because we had to go through a line anyway to get there into the baggage and to wait to get onto the ship just like everybody else did. And because our check-in time was around 3 o'clock. They had said if you had Faster to the Fun, you could arrive at before 12 or before 12, around 12 or before 12, if you had Faster to the Fun, and you were allowed to get on the ship before then. But our check-in time was at 3, and we had planned on staying in the port before going on the ship because I was with some of my family that day. So that was a waste because we didn't end up going there early, and I feel like if we did, we wouldn't have got in line and went right through anyway because we got checked by baggage for some of my medical supplies that I was promised were okay to take on the ship with me from Carnival themselves, and then I still got checked when we went through baggage, and we ended up thankfully getting to go on the cruise with my medical supplies. But I thought that was a miss on their part there, that they had told me I didn't need a note from my doctor, or I didn't need anything. It was all clear. I wouldn't be stopped. I would be fine. But I got stopped. So that was pretty bad. And then we had to wait anyway. And we're supposed to not be waiting. And our bags did not arrive at our room right when we got there. Our room was ready, yes, because, well, it was after 3 o'clock when we got on the ship. They had said if you went early, your room would be ready if you had a Faster to the Fun pass. So if we would have got on the ship around 12, like we could have because we had the passes, we technically could have went to our room. We didn't. We ended up getting on later in the afternoon. So it was kind of a waste there as well. The lines for guest services was basically the only thing that the Faster to the Fun pass was useful for, because they have a line at guest services pretty much all the time for people asking for stuff or getting postcards or doing shore excursions and things like that. So they have a separate line for people who have Faster to the Fun passes. That line was never full. There was never anybody there. So we could just walk right on up and get help whenever we wanted it. But if they were talking with someone in the other lines, they're not going to come over and talk to you right away. So yeah, kind of a letdown there too. Yeah, we can get in front of the line and just go up there and ask for a question if they're available, but if they're not, we're still going to be standing there waiting no matter what. And they told us that we could get first to go onto a tram or a ship if we have to go to and from a port somewhere. Didn't really help us there either, because all of the excursions that we did were not insanely packed, and everybody got on a bus and went to the area and then back the same way. So there wasn't nothing special that we had because we had those passes. So definitely would not recommend those. I am pretty upset about wasting my money basically on those because they didn't help us whatsoever. But other than that, I think it was all the excursions we did do, they were definitely worth it. So if you're going on a cruise and you pull up to the port and you're planning on getting off on a beach and you don't, I would definitely recommend getting an excursion, whether it be through the ship itself or through the island, whatever suits you best. But I think for now, though, we're going to go ahead and we're going to end that there. I think I've talked about everything that I could possibly think of for these short excursions. If I did miss anything, please feel free to let me know or ask me, and I will try to answer it the best that I can. But for now, I will see you guys in the next part of the review.